That's what they sent? That's what the humans consider a warship? The vessel in question hung in space like a child's badly assembled construction toy. All awkward angles and exposed struts, with what appeared to be shipping containers welded to its hull. Compared to the sleek, organic curves of the Unified Defense Fleet's battlecruisers, it looked like something cobbled together in a junkyard. Commander Verlac's tentacles rippled with barely contained amusement. According to their transmission, it's called the Persistent Customer Service Issue. Even their ship names are bizarre. Should we be worried? Lieutenant Carax asked, nervously adjusting their ceremonial carapace plates. The humans did technically qualify for the Defense Coalition after passing the basic spacefaring civilization requirements. Worried? About that? Zixtal gestured at the screen with 3 of their appendages. It doesn't even have proper energy shielding. I can see actual windows. Who puts windows on a warship? The bridge crew of the UDF flagship, Harmonious Convergence, shared knowing looks. They'd all heard stories about humans, of course, the newest species to stumble their way into faster-than-light travel and subsequently join the galactic community. Their admission had been controversial, to say the least. Any species that still used chemical propulsion alongside their fledgling FTL drives was bound to raise some eyebrows, or equivalent sensory organs. Well, Commander Verlac's voice carried that particular tone of someone about to deliver bad news. They are our assigned support for this operation. The Coalition Council was quite insistent about including them. Politics. Zixtal spat the word like a curse. Just because they helped negotiate that trade deal with the hive minds doesn't mean they're ready for actual combat operations. This is the largest pirate fleet we've encountered in 50 cycles. As if to emphasize their point, the tactical display updated to show the approaching threat. 47 ships of various sizes and configurations, all bristling with weaponry. The pirates had been growing bolder lately, hitting civilian shipping lanes with increasing frequency. This task force was meant to be a decisive response. Speaking of the humans, Carax interjected, they're hailing us again. Put them through, Verlac sighed. Let's see what they want now. The main view screen flickered to life, revealing a human bridge that looked more like a comfortable living space than a military command center. There were plants growing in corners, personal items stuck to surfaces with what appeared to be adhesive strips. And was that? Yes, that was definitely a hot beverage dispenser in the background. The human captain, Amanda Torres according to their credentials, smiled warmly. She was wearing what looked like a modified pressure suit with the top half tied around her waist, revealing a faded t-shirt with incomprehensible text about something called JavaScript and undefined is not a function. Hey there, Harmonious Convergence. Just wanted to give you a heads up. We're picking up some weird gravitational fluctuations from the pirate fleet. Might want to adjust your sensor calibrations to compensate. Oh, and does anyone want coffee? We just got a fresh batch of beans from Earth, and I've been dying to share them. Before anyone could respond, another human popped into view, this one wearing what appeared to be civilian workout attire. Captain, engineering says the duct tape on coolant line 3 is holding steady, but Miguel wants to know if we should add another layer just to be safe. Better safe than sorry, Torres replied cheerfully. Tell him to go nuts. We've got plenty of tape. Zixtal's mandibles clicked rapidly. Their species equivalent of hyperventilating. They're fixing vital systems with adhesive strips? Commander, we need to abort the mission. This is clearly... The tactical officer's urgent chirp cut through the conversation. Multiple ships dropping out of FTL. Pirate fleet has arrived. The space around them erupted with activity as the pirate armada materialized. It was an impressive sight. Vessels of various designs and origins, modified for combat and stripped of identifying marks. Their formation was tight and professional, suggesting this wasn't just some random band of outlaws. Well then, Torres grinned, cracking her knuckles in what the UDF crew had learned was a human gesture of anticipation, rather than a sign of structural failure. Time to earn our paycheck. Persistent customer service issue, commencing attack run. Attack run? Verlac's tentacles coiled in confusion. Their trajectory doesn't match any known combat pattern. What are they doing? The human ship was indeed moving in a way that defied conventional tactical doctrine. Instead of maintaining a defensive position within the UDF formation, it was accelerating directly toward the pirate fleet, rotating along multiple axes in what looked like barely controlled chaos. Are they having engine trouble? Carax wondered aloud. Negative, the sensor officer reported. All their systems are functioning within normal parameters, I think. It's hard to tell with their technology. The pirate fleet responded predictably to the apparent easy target, breaking formation to pursue the seemingly vulnerable human vessel. Their first volley of energy weapons splashed against the persistent customer service issue's hull, and did absolutely nothing. "Ha!" Torres' voice crackled over the comm. "Guess they've never seen a blade of armor before. Hey, pirates, you might want to back off. Things are about to get weird." A blade of armor? Zixtal's translator struggled with the concept. You mean they just let their hull get hit? "Multiple storage containers detaching from human vessel," the tactical officer announced. "They appear to be opening?" What emerged from the containers could only be described as organized chaos. Hundreds of small objects spilled out into space, each trailing what looked like primitive chemical propellant. The pirates' targeting systems, designed to track proper spacecraft, struggled to lock onto the cloud of debris. "Are those mining charges?" Karak squinted at the tactical display. "Mixed with construction equipment? And paint cans," Torres added helpfully. "Plus some glitter bombs. Jackson in engineering has a crafting hobby. Really helps with morale." The UDF crew watched in horrified fascination as the human ship continued its erratic course through the pirate formation, leaving behind a trail of industrial sabotage that would have made any safety inspector faint. Mining charges detonated against hull plates, construction foam expanded in engine exhaust ports, and clouds of metallic glitter played havoc with sensor systems. "This isn't combat," Zixtal whispered. "This is weaponized chaos." "That's not even the best part," Torres chimed in. "Watch this!" The persistent customer service issue suddenly cut its engines, rotating to present its broadside to the largest concentration of pirate ships. Panels along its hull retracted, revealing row after row of what appeared to be... Are those mass drivers? Verloc's tentacles went rigid with shock. "Actual projectile weapons? We like to call it the party popper array," Torres explained as hundreds of objects burst from the launchers. "Mostly modified construction nanites mixed with some really aggressive cleaning bots. They get into all the tight spaces and just go to town." The effect on the pirate fleet was immediate and devastating. Ships began reporting system failures as the nanites infiltrated through hull breaches and maintenance access points. Engines sputtered and died, weapons systems crashed, and in several cases, life support started playing what the humans called elevator music, on all frequencies. "This is impossible," Zixtal muttered. "They're winning with maintenance equipment and cleaning supplies." "Oh yeah," Torres nodded sagely. "You'd be amazed what you can accomplish with a creative application of everyday items. Did you know that common dish soap is really good at gunking up energy weapon focusing arrays? Something about the surfactant properties." The battle, if it could even be called that, was over in minutes. The pirate fleet hung motionless in space, their ships thoroughly disabled by the most unorthodox attack in UDF history. Emergency surrender signals flashed from every vessel, accompanied by desperate pleas to make the music stop. As the UDF fleet moved in to secure the disabled ships, Commander Verlac turned to address the human captain. "That was unprecedented. How did you know such tactics would work?" Torres shrugged, taking a sip from a container labeled "World's Okayest Captain." "Simple observation, really. We noticed that most advanced species rely heavily on energy weapons and shields, so they tend to overlook physical countermeasures. Plus, pirates usually steal their ships from legitimate sources, which means they're running standard operating systems. Nothing ruins your day quite like a cleaning bot deciding your weapon controls need a good scrubbing." "But the risk," Zixtal protested. "Flying directly into enemy fire, the structural stress from those maneuvers, the complete disregard for proper combat doctrine. Sometimes the best defense is making your opponent too confused to attack effectively." Torres grinned. "Besides, our ship is basically just a bunch of reinforced cargo containers strapped to an engine block. We built it to take a beating." "I see," Verlac said slowly, though they clearly didn't. "We'll include your methods in our after-action report, though I'm not sure how to classify them." "Oh, that's easy," Torres replied, finishing her drink. "Just file it under aggressive problem-solving. Works for our paperwork every time. Now about that coffee offer. Anyone interested? We've got cookies too." As the UDF crew tried to process everything they'd just witnessed, Lieutenant Carax leaned over to whisper to Zixtal. "You know what the scariest part is? This probably isn't even the weirdest thing humans have done in combat." "Don't," Zixtal clicked firmly. "I don't even want to think about it. Although..." They paused thoughtfully. "I am curious about these cookies they mentioned." The persistent customer service issue continued to orbit the battlefield, looking like a patchwork mess of repairs and improvised modifications. Yet somehow, it had just changed the UDF's entire understanding of space combat. The fact that its crew was now organizing an impromptu social gathering complete with baked goods only added to the surreal nature of the situation. Commander Verloc watched as small shuttlecraft began ferrying UDF personnel to the human ship for what Torres had called a victory coffee break. Their tentacles twisted in a gesture of resignation. "Send a message to command," they instructed their communications officer. Message begins. Request updated tactical protocols for joint operations with human forces. Previous doctrine insufficient. Also, please advise on proper etiquette for informal post-battle social gatherings. And send a copy of this incident to the Xenopsychology department. They're going to have a field day with this one. As if to punctuate the commander's words, a burst of human music drifted over the comm system. Something about another one biting the dust, accompanied by the sound of celebrating crew members and the unmistakable aroma of fresh coffee being transmitted through the video feed. The galaxy, it seemed, was going to have to adapt to humanity's unique approach to warfare. Though perhaps warfare wasn't quite the right word. Innovative crisis resolution through aggressive application of unconventional resources might be more accurate. And somewhere in the universe, a group of cleaning nanites was thoroughly enjoying its new job of reorganizing a pirate ship's cargo hold while playing synthesized versions of human elevator classics. Just another day in the increasingly strange galaxy that humanity called home. Chapter 2. No, absolutely not. Zixtal's mandibles clicked with fierce determination. I refuse to believe that's a standard part of human military doctrine. 2 weeks had passed since the infamous Party Popper incident, as the UDF had officially classified it in their records. The persistent customer service issue and its unorthodox crew had been assigned as permanent attachments to the Harmonious Convergence's battle group, much to Zixtal's ongoing existential crisis. Captain Torres, who was currently floating upside down in the Convergence's briefing room, citing something about better blood flow to the brain, merely grinned. Standard? Nah. We just make it up as we go along. Speaking of which, how do you folks feel about pancakes? Commander Verloc's tentacles twisted in what had become their standard expression of resigned amusement. Captain, we're discussing the defense of the Proxima trading hub from potential pirate retaliation. Perhaps we could focus on tactical planning rather than human breakfast foods? Oh, but that's exactly what I'm talking about. Torres performed an elegant zero-gravity flip to face the tactical display. See, pirates expect military responses to military threats. But what if... Hear me out. What if we turned the entire hub into the galaxy's biggest breakfast restaurant? The silence that followed was broken only by Lieutenant Carax's confused chirping. I think, Zixtal said carefully, your translator might be malfunctioning. Nope, working perfectly. Torres tapped her communication device. Look, pirates are basically bullies, right? And what's the one thing bullies hate more than anything? Being made to look ridiculous. So we advertise the biggest intergalactic pancake festival the galaxy has ever seen, right at the hub. And this helps us... How? Verloc's tentacles were now tied in actual knots. Simple. We mix our nanite defenders into the batter. Anyone who tries anything hostile gets a face full of weaponized breakfast food. Plus, the festival brings in legitimate traffic, making it harder for pirates to blend in. And who's going to expect military-grade defensive systems in a spatula? The UDF officers exchanged looks that transcended species barriers. A universal expression of, "Is she serious?" Before you say no, Torres continued, pulling up a holographic presentation that somehow included animated emoji. We've already successfully tested the concept. Remember that rogue AI incident in the Orion sector last month? The one that was resolved mysteriously before UDF forces arrived? Carax leaned forward, suddenly interested. Yep. Turns out even artificial intelligences get confused when their neural networks are bombarded with breakfast-related malware. Did you know you can overload most targeting systems by forcing them to calculate the optimal syrup-to-pancake ratio? The math is apparently infinite. This is madness, Zixtal declared, but their mandibles were clicking in their species' version of thoughtful consideration. Though, the pirates would never expect it. Exactly, Torres beamed. Plus, we've got this new weapon system we've been dying to try out. We call it the MAPLE, Magnetically Accelerated Projectile Launching Engine. It's basically a mass driver that shoots containers of super sticky synthetic syrup. Gums up engine ports, something fierce. Commander Verloc's tentacles had finally untangled themselves. Captain Torres, while I appreciate your creative approach, surely there are more conventional methods we could... The tactical alert klaxon cut through the conversation. Multiple signatures detected approaching the hub. The sensor officer's carapace was vibrating with excitement. Configuration matches known pirate vessels, but something's different about their energy signatures. Torres was already moving, her anti-grav boots carrying her toward the door. They've adapted their shields after last time. Good thing we came prepared. Commander, permission to deploy Operation Breakfast Rush? Verloc's tentacles rippled in what might have been a sigh, might have been a laugh. Granted, though I expect a full explanation of when and how you prepared all this. Oh, that's easy. Remember all those supply runs we've been making? Turns out you can fit a lot of tactical breakfast equipment in cargo containers labeled Emergency Cultural Exchange Materials. As the crew scrambled to battle stations, Karax turned to Zixtal. Should we be worried that they planned this all along? I've stopped trying to figure out if humans are brilliant strategists or just really lucky, Zixtal replied, though I'm starting to suspect it's both. The next hour was a blur of activity that would give UDF tactical analysts headaches for years to come. The persistent customer service issue deployed what could only be described as a minefield of pressurized batter canisters, while modified food service drones zipped between surprised pirate vessels, spraying them with weaponized cooking oil that played havoc with their sensor systems. The piece de resistance, as Torres called it, after explaining that humans had apparently stolen the phrase from another human culture, was the MAPLE system in action. The sight of pirate ships drifting helplessly in space, their engines clogged with artificial syrup and their hulls covered in what Torres called the galaxy's biggest breakfast gone wrong, would haunt Zixtal's dreams for cycles to come. This is technically a food fight, Torres commented cheerfully over the comm as another pirate vessel succumbed to breakfast-based warfare. Biggest one in human history, if you don't count that incident at the Mars Colony Academy cafeteria. I don't want to know, Zixtal muttered, even as their mandibles clicked with curiosity. Though, what exactly was the Mars Colony incident? Oh man, let me tell you about the Great Mashed Potato Rebellion of 2157. But first, anyone hungry? All this tactical breakfast deployment is making me crave the real thing. As the UDF fleet moved to secure the thoroughly confused and syrup-covered pirate vessels, Commander Verlac found themselves drafting what had to be the strangest combat report of their career. How does one officially document a military victory achieved through weaponized breakfast foods? In the end, they settled for the simple truth. Human auxiliary forces successfully neutralized hostile elements through unconventional application of cultural exchange materials. Minimal casualties, maximum confusion. Request additional storage space for confiscated breakfast-based weaponry. Also, recommend immediate review of UDF dietary regulations. Crew morale has increased 47% since introduction of human pancakes to mess hall menu. The persistent customer service issue hung in space beside them, its hull now decorated with what appeared to be giant painted pancakes. The ship's new motto, hastily added beneath its name, read, "Serving up justice, sunny side up." You know what the really scary part is? Karax mused as they watched Torres orchestrate an impromptu victory brunch. This probably isn't even the weirdest battle plan they've got. Don't, Zixtal warned. I'm still trying to process how they turned breakfast into a viable combat strategy. Though, they paused, mandibles clicking thoughtfully. I have to admit, these pancakes are surprisingly good. As if in response, Torres's voice came over the comm again. Hey, who wants to hear about our plans for Operation Taco Tuesday? It involves weaponized hot sauce and something we call the guacamole gambit. Verloc's tentacles curled in preemptive resignation. The galaxy, it seemed, wasn't just adapting to humanity's approach to warfare. It was developing a taste for it. Literally. Chapter 3. This is a diplomatic incident waiting to happen, Zixtal declared, watching the holographic display with a mixture of horror and fascination. The Coalition Council will have our carapaces for this. The persistent customer service issue was currently executing what Captain Torres had dubbed a tactical drive-by party bombing of the Drachnid Empire's primary military outpost. The fact that this was happening during peace negotiations only made it more surreal. Technically, Torres's voice crackled over the comm, her ship trailing streams of glittering party decorations behind it. We're following the exact letter of the diplomatic protocol. The Drachnids demanded a demonstration of human military capabilities. They never specified what kind of demonstration. Commander Verlac's tentacles were doing that thing again. The wave-like ripple that meant they were trying not to laugh. She's not wrong. Article 7, Section 3 of the Diplomatic Guidelines does call for a display of martial prowess appropriate to cultural norms. On the main screen, the Drachnid battle station was slowly disappearing beneath layers of biodegradable confetti and what appeared to be several thousand inflatable rubber ducks. Each duck, according to Torres's earlier briefing, contained a sophisticated ECM package that played nothing but human party music on all frequencies. The best part, Torres continued, executing a barrel roll that released another wave of festive chaos, is that everything we're using is technically classified as cultural exchange materials under the Coalition Charter. Did you know there's no official definition of what constitutes a party favor? Lieutenant Corax, who had somehow ended up as the unofficial chronicler of human combat innovations, was frantically taking notes. But what about what did you call it? The Pinata Gambit. Oh, that's coming up. Jackson in engineering spent 3 weeks designing what we're calling the PRTY system. Pneumatically actuated reactive tactical yield. Basically, it's a bunch of pressurized containers that look like traditional human party decorations, but are filled with our special nanite confetti. And the nanites? Zixtal almost didn't want to know. Reprogrammed cleaning bots. They're technically performing their intended function, just very, very enthusiastically. Right now, they're probably reorganizing the Drachnid's weapon systems into something more festive. Possibly a conga line. The Drachnid battle station's lights were indeed beginning to pulse in a rhythmic pattern, and several of its defense turrets appeared to be swiveling in time to something called YMCA. Incoming transmission from the Drachnid High Command, the communications officer announced, trying to keep their antennae from bobbing to the beat. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a Drachnid war chief whose fearsome battle armor was now covered in sparkly stickers and trailing streamers. Their expression was difficult to read, given their arthropodal features, but their mandibles were definitely twitching. "This," the war chief's translator crackled. "This is your species' approach to warfare?" "Oh no," Torres replied cheerfully, appearing on a split screen while casually juggling what looked like miniature disco balls. "This is just our approach to parties. You should see what we do when we're actually trying to be hostile." There was a long pause as the Drachnid leader processed this. In the background, several of their officers appeared to be unsuccessfully fighting the urge to dance to something called the electric slide. And these party weapons, they caused no casualties? No structural damage? Well, Torres consulted a datapad. 3 of your crew members did sprain something trying to breakdance, and someone got a paper cut from the confetti. We've already dispatched our medical team with band-aids and lollipops. Another pause. The Drachnid war chief's mandibles clicked rapidly. And you can deploy these tactics anywhere, at any time? Pretty much. We've got themed packages for every occasion. Want to see what we do for New Year's? The war chief raised all 4 of their appendages in what was apparently a universal gesture of, "Please stop." "That won't be necessary. We will sign the peace treaty, immediately." "Awesome!" Torres beamed. "We brought cake!" As the transmission ended, Zixtal turned to Commander Verlac. Did we just witness the first successful peace negotiation via weaponized party supplies? "I believe," Verlac replied, their tentacles now fully committed to expressing amusement. "We just witnessed the birth of an entirely new form of diplomatic relations. The Coalition Council is going to need a whole new classification system." "Speaking of classification," Corax interjected, "how do we explain the rubber ducks in the official report?" "Tactical aquatic decoys," Torres suggested, her ship executing another pass that released a cloud of what appeared to be party poppers modified to launch diplomatic treaties. "Or maybe morale enhancement deployment systems. Oh, we could call them waterfowl-based psychological operation devices." The Harmonious Convergence's bridge crew watched as the last of the party ammunition found its targets. The fearsome Drachnid battle station now looked like it was hosting the galaxy's most enthusiastic celebration, complete with a banner that somehow read "Peace Out" in 17 different languages. "You know what the really impressive part is," Corax mused. "The cleanup nanites will have everything back to normal in about 6 hours, except for the rubber ducks. Those are programmed to randomly play Earth pop music whenever someone walks past them." "Psychological warfare," Torres nodded sagely. "Nothing keeps the peace like the threat of spontaneous disco." Commander Verlac was already drafting their report to command. Human auxiliary forces successfully concluded peace negotiations through aggressive application of celebratory tactics. Request immediate update to diplomatic protocols to include section on party-based conflict resolution. Also recommend requisition of additional storage space for what humans refer to as emergency dance floor materials. As the fleet prepared to escort the newly peaceful Drachnid representatives to the formal treaty signing, Zixtal noticed something odd about the persistent customer service issue's hull. "Captain Torres," they clicked hesitantly. "Why does your ship appear to be covered in wrapping paper?" "Oh, that," Torres grinned. "We're gift wrapping the whole ship for the ceremony. You know what they say? Presentation is everything in diplomacy." "We're doomed," Zixtal muttered, but their mandibles were clicking in what might have been a laugh. "The galaxy isn't ready for this." "Ready or not," Carax chuckled, "I think humanity just invented party warfare, and somehow, it works." As if to punctuate this observation, a final wave of rubber ducks emerged from the human ship's launchers, forming a perfect formation that spelled out peace against the backdrop of space. Each duck was wearing a tiny diplomat's hat. The galaxy, it seemed, would never be quite the same. But maybe, just maybe, it would be a lot more fun. And somewhere in the Drachnid battle station, a very confused maintenance bot was teaching its fellows how to do the Macarena. Just another day in humanity's increasingly festive approach to interstellar relations. Chapter 4. The humans want to do what to the quantum singularity? Commander Verlac's tentacles twisted into shapes that shouldn't have been physically possible. Lieutenant Carax consulted their notes, mandibles clicking uncertainly. According to Captain Torres, they plan to, and I'm quoting directly here, throw it the biggest Sweet 16 party the universe has ever seen. The briefing room of the Harmonious Convergence had seen its fair share of unusual strategic discussions over the past few months. But this one was pushing the boundaries of even their newly expanded definition of tactical creativity. "I feel compelled to point out," Zixtal interjected, their carapace plates rustling with anxiety, "that the quantum singularity in question is an unstable temporal anomaly that's threatening 3 major trade routes. It's not actually a teenage human female." "Exactly." Torres' hologram beamed at them. The human captain was currently upside down again, but this time she was also knitting what appeared to be a tactical scarf. "That's why it's acting out. Nobody's acknowledged its special day." The UDF officers exchanged looks that spoke volumes about their collective resignation to human logic. "Captain," Verlac began carefully, "perhaps you could explain how throwing a party for a spatial phenomenon would help stabilize it." "Simple. We've noticed that the singularity's quantum fluctuations follow a pattern similar to human teenage mood swings. So, we modified our PARTY system to deploy specialized nanoconfetti that resonates at the same frequency as the temporal distortions." "And the giant space cake?" Carax asked, somehow maintaining a straight face. "That's actually a sophisticated gravimetric stabilization device. The frosting is a layer of quantum-entangled particles that should help smooth out the worst of the temporal hiccups. Plus, it looks fabulous." Zixtal's mandibles clicked rapidly as they processed this. "You're saying you built a quantum mechanics device that looks like a dessert?" "Of course! Engineering had a blast with it. Did you know you can use sugar crystals as a base for quantum computing?" The hardest part was getting the sprinkles to stop trying to achieve sentience. Before anyone could question that particularly disturbing statement, the tactical alert blared. The singularity was acting up again, its temporal distortions causing nearby space to ripple like water in a pond. "Perfect timing," Torres exclaimed, somehow managing to do a zero-gravity backflip while still knitting. "Operation Sweet 16 is ready to roll. You might want to put on your party hats. We're about to make physics fun." The persistent customer service issue moved into position, its hull now decorated with holographic streamers and what appeared to be a giant happy birthday banner written in quantum particles. The ship had been modified yet again, this time sporting what Torres called party popper arrays that were actually highly sophisticated quantum field manipulators. "Beginning party deployment sequence," Torres announced cheerfully. "DJ Physics, drop the beat." To the UDF crew's amazement, the human ship began broadcasting a complex pattern of graviton waves that somehow matched the rhythm of something called teenage pop music. The unstable singularity actually seemed to pause in its chaos, as if confused by the sudden attention. "Now for the real magic," Torres grinned. "Releasing the quantum confetti!" Streams of specially engineered nanoparticles erupted from the ship's launchers, each one precisely calibrated to interact with the temporal distortions. The effect was immediate and stunning. The chaotic energy patterns began to stabilize, forming what looked suspiciously like party decorations in four-dimensional space. Are those temporal streamers? Karax asked in disbelief. Yep, and watch this. Deploying the space cake. The massive quantum stabilization device emerged from the persistent customer service issue's cargo bay, its frosting-like coating of entangled particles glowing with exotic energy. As it moved closer to the singularity, the cake's quantum properties began to interact with the temporal distortions, gradually forcing them into a more stable configuration. I can't believe this is working, Zixtal muttered, watching as their sensor readings showed the anomaly's energy patterns settling into a manageable state. We're literally throwing a birthday party for a hole in space-time. Don't forget the best part, Torres reminded them. Everyone sing! To the eternal confusion of future physics students everywhere, the official record would show that the first successful stabilization of a quantum singularity was accompanied by a multi-species rendition of Happy Birthday broadcast on all frequencies. The singularity, whether due to the quantum mechanics at work, or perhaps just sheer bewilderment, settled into a stable state that the human scientists dubbed quantum contentment. See? Torres beamed as she supervised the final deployment of temporal party favors. Sometimes all an unstable astronomical phenomenon needs is a little celebration. Now who wants some non-quantum cake? We made extra. Commander Verlac stared at their tactical display, watching as the once dangerous anomaly twinkled peacefully amid its quantum decorations. Their tentacles had given up trying to express their confusion, and were now just sort of waving aimlessly. I'll need to report this to command, they said finally. How exactly does one explain that we stabilized a temporal anomaly with party physics? Oh, that's easy, Torres replied, finally finishing her tactical scarf, which apparently doubled as a quantum energy detector. Just tell them we successfully applied human social protocols to a quantum-level event. Technically true. And the cake? Karax asked. Gravimetric stabilization through celebratory engineering, Torres declared proudly. I'm thinking of submitting it to the Human Journal of Party Science. It'll be our first peer-reviewed celebration. As the UDF fleet prepared to secure the now stable singularity, Zixtal turned to Karax. You know what the really worrying part is? That this isn't even the strangest thing humans have done to physics? No. That Captain Torres mentioned something about planning a quantum prom for the neutron star cluster in Sector 7. The persistent customer service issue hung in space, still broadcasting celebratory quantum frequencies to the stabilized singularity. Its new mission patch, hastily added after the success, read, Making physics fun since 2157, one party at a time. Commander Verlac began their report to command. Human auxiliary forces have successfully stabilized temporal anomaly through unprecedented application of celebration-based quantum mechanics. Request immediate update to physics textbooks and expansion of UDF party supply budget. Also, recommend preparation for possible quantum prom, just in case. The galaxy, it seemed, wasn't just adapting to humanity's approach to physics. It was learning to celebrate it, literally and quantum mechanically. End of Chapter 4.